Hello, welcome to Life Matters. I'm your host, Brendan O'Connell. Today's show listens to the thoughts and testimony of one post-abortive woman. When you listen to what she has to say, you must realize there are millions upon millions of post-abortive men and women right here in America. And ask yourself, if you had an abortion or know someone who has, do you and or those who are post-abortive experience the same troubling thoughts and emotions and, for that matter, the physical ramifications of having had an abortion? For instance, did you know the Elliott Institute, which does scientific peer-reviewed research on this topic, claims that 64% of all abortions in America, the woman is threatened, pressured, and or coerced into getting an abortion. Today's guest was born at Union Hospital right here in Lynn, Massachusetts. She grew up in Swampscott. She graduated from Salem State College with a degree in accounting. She's happily married to her husband, Steve Morse, and she's a certified public accountant in private practice. Well, welcome, Cori Connor-Morse.
Thank you, Brandon.
So nice of you to make it in from the distant north.
Thanks for having me.
Well, could you share with us your testimony, Cori? Why don't we go right into it and hear what you have to say?
Okay, thank you. We all reasonably expect to remember certain dates in our lives forever, but our short human memories usually don't accommodate us. Graduations, weddings, milestone birthdays. We believe we won't forget, but we do. There is a day in 1983 when I was 20 years old, a junior in college, and I can tell you nearly every detail. I was married to my high school sweetheart, and our day started at about 5 a.m. There was an earthquake in New York State that we felt in our apartment in Lynn. I got dressed in my dark navy pinstripe straight-leg Lee jeans, and I wore a navy V-neck sweatshirt and bass burgundy tasseled loafers with a matching belt. I also know I ate 2 pints of strawberry Haagen-Dazs that I bought on the ride home at about 3 o'clock. It was my first day of my struggle with weight. I don't know about you, but I can't remember what I wore or what I ate or what time I woke up yesterday. It's remarkable to me that there is not much that I have forgotten about October 7th, 1983. We got in the car around 6. My husband drove. I thought we were going to 7-Eleven Boylston Street in Brookline, but my 7:30 appointment was in downtown Boston, so we were late. It is an office building now, but it wasn't then. I had never been there before, and I knew only a few hours after we arrived that I would never go back under any circumstances, and I never did. Being late and nervous, my heart was racing and beating irregularly because of a faulty valve that I was born with. An earthquake, getting lost, and a messed up heart. Surely signs that I was making a serious mistake. But I chose to ignore those glaring signs. There were no cell phones in those days, so we stopped at a payphone to call the clinic to make sure that they would still take me for my appointment. When we finally arrived, the clinic personnel wouldn't give me general anesthesia, as we had discussed on the phone, because of my heart. So I was awake and very alert, and that much more terrified. I was allowed to keep my glasses on. As a result, every ugly sight, every tragic sound, and every excruciating pain from the abortion became etched in my memory and on my irregular and soon-to-be broken heart. I was asked, "Do you have any religious convictions that you would like to discuss with a counselor?" I vehemently answered no. I truly believed that I had none, as a proud and true atheist. But when the suction started and my heart pounded, I begged for the abortionist to stop. Too late. Something was telling me that this was wrong. Was it the sobbing from every other woman in that room? My cradle Catholic guilt? Natural law? God. If I did believe that I had just killed the only child I would ever conceive, my mechanism for survival immediately became suppression. I knew it was wrong on that Friday before Columbus Day, but survival from that moment on relied on junk food, throwing myself into my education and later my career, denial, and the perception that if it ever got too difficult, there was a way out, a desperate way out to which I was more than willing to resort. The years that followed were not pretty. Depression, panic attacks, and many suicide attempts. I was in counseling for many years, but it didn't help. It likely kept me alive because I was conscientious and I kept my appointments. But the counselors kept telling me that it was perfectly fine to have had an abortion. One of them even told me about hers. Surely I must have known someone who had had an abortion and then went on to give birth. No, I didn't. So she admitted that she was that woman, and it was not that unusual. Just made me feel worse. Another encouraged me to buy a vacation home and enjoy the freedom that came from a life without children. Through all of the personal torment and regret, I still believed that abortion was a woman's right and continued to be somewhat of a pro-choice ambassador. Just because it hadn't been right for me, abortion was still necessary and perfectly justifiable in our society. How could a woman truly be free without her rightful escape hatch from the slavery of motherhood? I was definitely right about this. I had to be. My mental health hinged precariously upon my being right. I got divorced, dated, and frankly used far too many men. I got remarried, divorced again, and finally gave up the dream. Once I gave up, I was given my husband, my true husband. In 2001, Steve married me, a depressed, unfulfilled, and broken woman, and he loved me anyway. Love has a way of healing things, or at least bringing attention to the stubborn wounds that won't heal. The years went by and my sadness deepened, despite our life that was so very good in many ways. In January 2009, I listened to a radio interview with a woman who had undergone a second trimester abortion. Her baby was born alive into a toilet in Florida. She was an emotional mess. It got me thinking and believing that there must have been a better way for that woman. There must have been a better way for me, rather than existing in the life of regret that had dominated the past 3 decades. Without any warning, I announced to my husband that I had made an appointment with a priest. I needed to talk to a priest just once. The stirrings of what-ifs wouldn't leave me alone. What if I could learn something that might help me? What if I received the sacrament of reconciliation? Might I feel different after having been excommunicated for so very long? What if the church had been right about abortion? What if there really is, somehow, some way, a God? On March 17, 2009, at the age of 46, I met with the local parish priest, and my life was forever changed. He told me that my abortion had indeed been wrong. For the first time in 26 years, I heard the truth. Society kept insisting that it wasn't wrong. It was legal, acceptable, common, and the right thing to do in the situation of an inconvenient pregnancy. I sobbed for nearly 2 hours with my priest, the hardest and best 2 hours of my life. I couldn't get any better. I couldn't get out of my own way until I internalized the truth of what I had done all those years ago. The truth was that the 6 to 8 week old fetus that I was assured was not a living being yet was in fact a baby. He was my baby, my only baby, and I like to think I would have chosen to keep him had I known that. My priest sent me to Project Rachel for true counseling of a spiritual and emotional nature, rather than a societal, secular, and clinical nature. I went with trepidation, but with hope that had no logical foundation. I met many women who suffered with the same issues that I did: promiscuity, divorce, depression, infertility, anxiety, and addictions. The church had been right about abortion. It was wrong, not just for me, but for all of us. Regardless of the reasons, the church proved herself because I witnessed the brokenness of myself and others, and we found each other because of our abortions. The abortions weren't merely excuses for our messed up lives. They were clearly the cause of them. Healing from an abortion is a lengthy process. 26 years of ingrained thinking and self-sabotage is difficult to undo. It remains a constant struggle to forgive myself and to curb the longing for the child I should have been mother to. Sharing my story, my regret, my pain, and my guilt with others allowed me to turn a corner. I had finally found some relief from my self-inflicted turmoil. It may have been God giving all of this, but what mattered was that I finally felt different. I didn't really care what the source was. To me, it was just some relief. My Project Rachel retreat opened my mind and my heart to the other truths that I had denied since I was a teenager. All it took was humility, a pastor with the patience of Job, and a husband who loved me. And I was gifted to believe that it was a merciful God who had called me back incessantly. Had I never acknowledged even the existence of God, I still would have been changed by him, because people cared very deeply about me, my well-being, and my soul. They didn't ask that I believe as they did. They asked only that I accept their love. I learned that love is not the romantic Hollywood love that people who don't understand it long for. Love is a deep connection between each of us simply because we're human, because we have more in common with each other than we have differences, because we need to care more about each other than we care for stray cats and abandoned puppies. Our society has distorted our thinking and our belief system from every angle. It's hard to deny that people were created to be loved, and things were created to be used. The problem has become that we've learned to love things and to use people. I used my child. He was a symbol of my freedom and my distorted view of what I was deserving of. I took his life to prove that I was in control, that I knew best, and he was insignificant. I participate in 40 Days for Life now, trying to give back. We are met with constant ridicule from passers-by who think we should mind our own business, get a job, and stop harassing women. We're accused of trying to impose our religious beliefs on others. It was actually the other way around for me. My religious beliefs began to form when I realized the truth about life. I believe we have a chance to save lives if we give witness to life, a witness that can be incredibly unpopular. We did help to save a life. A baby was born on September 11, 2012, who had been scheduled to be aborted in February of that year. Her parents saw the people gathered in front of the clinic, and they turned their car around. That baby is a girl, and she has a brother and a sister and 2 parents who love her. Her name is Eleanor. All children deserve that, to have a name and a home and a family. whether they are planned or not, whether they are loved or wanted or accepted by their natural parents. Babies have unique DNA at conception, a heartbeat that is detectable at only 21 days, and hiccups and pain and dreams and the comfort of sucking their thumbs, all long before they are born. Society tries to tell us that there is not a miraculous new life at conception. Society is wrong. All babies are wanted by someone, and all mothers should be told this in order to make a choice for life. One life can't be more valuable than another. One person's rights simply can't trump another's. Both are logical impossibilities. I speak to young people in confirmation classes about my abortion. I tell them about the beauty and richness of a life lived with faith, hope, forgiveness, and genuine love. But I know that what they will likely remember most is the old lady who stood before them, still crying after more than 30 years, crying about one baby who wasn't given the chance to be born. And I tell them that the whole world changed on that day. Like George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life, our lives touch each other's in countless and miraculous ways. I deprived the world the difference one child could have made and the generations that would have followed him. I pray that this child, whom I name Patrick, is touching your life today in some meaningful and heartfelt way.
Well, Cori, that's a beautiful testimony. Thank you so much. I know it means so much, and the words that you've penned there are just really beautiful, and I think very heartfelt and touching and emotional. Well, let me ask you, why is it important for you to speak publicly about your abortion?
I feel as if this is a calling for me of sorts. I'm in a unique position that I can speak. My husband is supportive, and my abortion has actually never been a secret. But so many women hold their abortion secret from their parents and their husbands and their children, and it's a lengthy burden that they carry for many years, some of them their whole lives. Because of their secrets, they can't speak. And because they can't speak, they can't get help. That is where counseling like Rachel's Vineyard and Project Rachel come in. It's amazing to feel safe enough to share a secret that has been shaming you and burdening you for so long. In my case, it was decades. And I also want to help women to realize that this may sneak up on them. A lot of people think they're fine with their abortions, and they have, become zealots because they see people like me who are speaking out against it, and they feel they have to oppose the pro-life stance. So in my case, it was the onset of menopause when I was 46 that played a role in continuing my endless search for help. The hormonal changes, and the reality that my time was up. There would be no baby. There would be no miraculous conception for my husband and me. It was a trigger, and it helped to open my eyes to the rest of it. And it feels urgent sometimes to help other women, because we can change the perception if more people go public with their stories. And public doesn't necessarily mean doing TV shows with you. Mm-hmm. You can go public by confiding in a niece, a nephew, a daughter, a son, even a stranger, and let them know that there are options, and everything has a consequence. And abortion has consequences. I stole that from Mother Angelica last week. That just popped into my head. Thank you, Mother. I have a bookmark, and it's a young woman, and she's slouching and her head's down, and from her lips there's a saying coming out that says, "My mom's going to kill me." And you look down to her abdomen and it's a little bit swelled, and from her abdomen there's words from the baby, and it says, "My mom's going to kill me." And we need to be in a position to teach people before the abortionist has the power that we've given. You know, we have, since 1973, with Roe versus Wade, we've been brainwashed, and people need to learn the truth that back then everyone knew that life began at conception. And now we doubt that? I mean, it was a given. There wasn't even any question. So that one simple part of the issue is, to me, clear evidence that the deception and the lucrative and predatory business that abortion is, it needs to be revealed to the public in some manner or form.
And what about, you mentioned that God was calling you back. What might you say to someone without any faith or who has doubts to convince them that it was indeed God's hand intervening in their life? You know, the atheist, the agnostic, or the person who just has a huge ego and not willing to admit that maybe they don't have complete power.
Right. I think just my personal testimony is that I tried everything. I tried yoga, psychiatrists, Native American healing, Wiccan. I literally tried everything to heal, and Reiki, reflexology, just the gamut. And nothing seemed to work until I went to talk to that priest. And it's possible for someone who doesn't even believe in God to just speak to someone with a heart of gold like this priest has, and just realize that there is truth. There is right and wrong, and we know it. We just have forgotten it. Right and wrong still matter. And when you are living a lie and you believe you've done something that's right and fine and just, but you know something nags at you, then that spirit of truth that comes from God, but you don't have to believe it comes from God, can still give you peace. It absolutely can still give you peace.
So then, how might you direct? We have an increasing secular atheist society. Fewer people are going to church, particularly in their 20s and 30s. Where does these secular people? Where do they find this? Where do they seek the help? Where would you go? I mean, where would you recommend that they go?
Even without having believed that it was God who did all this wonder in my life, I still would have gained a lot of peace just from attending a Project Rachel retreat, a Rachel's Vineyard retreat, speaking to people from Silent No More. Because in the sharing and unburdening and realizing that you're not crazy, there's a lot to be said for that. And if you don't believe in God, you can still hear these stories and realize, I'm going to be okay, because I see other women that have healed, and they tell their stories, and you see how their lives have improved and their addictions have been cured, and just so many ways that just the sharing part is able to help. God meets you where you are, and that's the truth. You don't have to be in a confessional.
I see. Well, Cori, thank you so much for sharing that testimony with us today. It's really a beautiful thing that you're doing, really, for not just the locals here in Boston, but hopefully throughout all of Massachusetts, where this show will eventually be seen. And we really appreciate having the courage to step forth today.
Thank you, Brendan.
You're most welcome. And we hope that you found our show to be today unique, informative, content-rich, truthful, and thought-provoking. Thanks for watching. I'm Brendan O'Connell, your friend for life. Welcome, Dr. Shuping. Great to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here with you.
Dr. Shuping, can you tell us a little bit about what has been going on as far as studies with women? Where did you first see the problems where there might be psychological problems going on with post-abortive women?
I actually first saw this with my own patients when I was in training. And actually, as a young woman, I had done abortion referrals. I was taught that this was women's right to choose and this was helping women. And so I took one evening of training when I was an undergraduate and learned to tell women, no problem, no side effects, don't worry about it. Here's where you go and get your abortion. But when I was in training myself, I saw it wasn't that way at all. And that many women are having abortions they don't want to please other people or under extensive pressure from other people. And a lot of these women are suffering greatly. So I had a patient.
Well, welcome, Paul Rondeau. Paul, what is it that you perceive? If it's not the economy, then what do you perceive as this upcoming election? What is really important, and is it a dire situation?
Well, let me make this metaphor. If we all had more coin in our pockets, but bars on our windows, would we be more free or less free? And this election has been focusing on something extremely important. That is the economy, jobs, social justice. I understand all of that. But while we've all been focused on that, and the GOP has refused almost to talk about anything else, I mean, I can talk to you about multiple bills protecting the family, protecting the preborn that have come and gone, protecting targeted abortions against female babies have come and gone, never got to a vote because they felt it was a distraction on the economy, which they felt was a winning issue, and maybe it will be. But in the meantime, we have allowed, in many respects, our first freedoms, speech.